Okay, we're back. What I'm going to show you now is taking a V tool, and we're just going to go maybe 1/8 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch maybe, and just more of 1/8. Just go around and cut very close to the bottom of the carving. And what that will do, it will make it look like there's a heel on the bottom of the boot. I always lean my finger up against it. I find these tools can be extremely dangerous if you're not careful. I try not to put a lot of pressure behind them. Kind of let the tool do the work. But when you're going against the grain like I am now, it can be pretty tricky. And then I take my knife again and I go around and I take that little hard corner off. And I can do that offline, but I'm just showing you a little bit of that. See where it's, just take that off a little bit. Alright. Now we're going to do the same thing with the hat. We're going to put that line back one where the hat should be. Right. So there's a little bit of a heart. So again, I'm going to spray it just a tad to make it a little easier to cut. Again, you want to make sure your V tool is sharp, and these are difficult to sharpen. I'm not going to lie to you folks. Some people have a knack for sharpening and some people don't. And most of us, if you're like most of us, you're going to have to learn how to do it than relying on people to always do it for you. First of all, it makes carving much more of a pleasure to have something nice and sharp, and also it's satisfying to me to be able to do it yourself, you know, to be able to sharpen these tools. And it takes some practice. So if you know somebody in a club that knows how to sharpen tools really well and he has a reputation for that, then go visit them, ask them to teach you, you know. Maybe your carving club somewhere will show people how to sharpen their tools and what to look for. I have some videos on just the knives. I don't really have anything. Well, I have a couple of things on the tool itself, but on the V tools, but they are difficult to sharpen, and I'm not trying to discourage you. It's just something you may have to learn. Just like most carvers don't care to paint. They have to learn how to paint their pieces. We have one guy in our club, he hardly ever paints. He just leaves them this way and that's it. But when you can paint, I think it enhances your carving. You don't want it to look like a ceramic piece, but that's something that you would learn as well. So if sharpening is a very much of a chore for you, the sooner you learn how to do that, the less intimidated you're going to be to do your own tools and to keep them sharp. And like I said before, if you ask 10 carvers how to sharpen tools, you're going to get 10 different answers. The same thing with the painting. You're going to get different styles and different ways of doing things, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, everybody, it's like somebody cooking, you know, somebody may cook a certain way versus another person, you know, or a way of doing things might be a little bit different. Doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. Just a different way of doing it. But please learn how to sharpen your knives. You will find such a pleasure in being able to take a few moments and to hone up your knives and that you can continue carving. I have about 4 or 5 knives in my box all the time, so then I take my time. I I'll take them all out and sharpen them all at the same time, so I have something ready to go. If one gets a little bit dull or it seems like it's not holding the edge, I just pick another knife. If you go to these carving shows, sometimes they have demonstrations on how to take care of it. Now you notice I did an extra cut in the back and I undercut it from the top down, so it looks like that piece is sticking out further. Alright. Okay. That looks pretty good. That's kind of where I want it to be right now. I'm going to fuss with that tassel later on. Now we're going to start on this portion. And see, we have this one corner that's coming up as a tad, so we're just going to kind of slice that off a little bit. Now, unless your knife is really sharp, you're not going to be able to do this, you know. Just to warn you. You know, when you go to sliver things off, your knife really does have to be super sharp. And they said, well, if my knife was so sharp, I can, you know, it's like a razor cuts my hair off my arm. Well, sometimes even that is not sharp enough, and part of the reason it may not be sharp enough is simply because of the bevel on your knife. And if you go to my one of my very first videos years ago, I did the secret number 2 of sharpening. You know, there's definitely a way to get rid of that bevel. If that bevel is rounded at all, and it will explain that in that video, then it will roll off no matter how sharp the edge is. If it's beveled, if it has a little bit of a curvature to it, it's not going to dig into the wood like it should, and that will explain it. So please go to that video if you're new and you're not sure what I'm talking about. It's really detailed. It will give you the information on how to fix it, you know, how to take care of it. Now, you notice I'm doing this again. I'm going to each edge, kind of notching it and trying to match them up exactly straight with the knife. And then I take the tip of the knife and I go much deeper, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to do some of this offline, so when we come back, I'll just show you the way of, so it's not redundant here. Alright, we got this portion done, and we're going to do our first cut, and I'll show you that when we come back. We can finish this up probably one more video. Alright, folks, we'll be right back.